What up guys, SuperMetal983 here bringing you another album review, and this time we've got one that, dare I say it, was my most anticipated album of 2020 and the comeback album of all comeback albums, if you ask me. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the new album from the band The Ghost Inside, which is self-titled The Ghost Inside, which is out now under Epitaph Records. Now, if you should be familiar with The Ghost Inside by now. They are a melodic hardcore band hailing from the US, and this is the band's first album since 2014 when they released their fourth studio album entitled Dear Youth, which to me anyway, I wasn't a massive overall fan of that album. It was typical Ghost Inside sounding, very solid stuff, but it didn't have such a great effect on me as much as Get What You Give or Returners for that matter, because those two albums I hold like very deep to my heart. They are incredible albums and very motivational in their delivery, if you ask me. And that's one thing that I've always loved and admired for The Ghost Inside is their, uplifting atmosphere, talking about the down times, when you feel like rock bottom and ways to bring yourself back up. They've done that consistently throughout their career, and yeah, those two albums in particular definitely strike hard with me, overall. But yeah, obviously, as you know, back in 2015, the band was involved in a horrendous crash, which took a massive dig into the band's career, you could say, involving loads of hospital visits, the drummer even losing his leg, comas, all sorts of horrible shit that the band's gone through over the past 5 years or so, rehabilitating themselves from that crash, which still to this day, I remember seeing the news articles and all that and being traumatized by it. It was absolutely horrendous, the crash, and it's amazing to see what the band has overcome in that time, in these past 5 years, and they are back and ready to riff it again with a new album, which is self-titled. So, and also, I'll quickly say the little details. It's 11 tracks and runs 40 minutes in length, and I first off want to say that this being a self-titled album, now normally I'm not a big fan of the self-titled album, names and stuff like that, but I feel like this album definitely is justifiable because this is The Ghost Inside coming back, ready to make a name for themselves once again and overcome the odds, and it's about them themselves, so I feel like it's a bit more fitting with this album. So yeah, where can we start? Let's start off with the teasing that they did leading up to this album, that they were going to make a triumphant return. They were in the studio, they were writing new music and all like that. All that sort of stuff conjuring up, leading us to the first single that they dropped from this album, which was the last track on the album, called Aftermath. And honestly, that song is, as it stands at the moment, my favourite song of the year, because that song really motivates me in a lot of ways. It takes everything what the Ghost Inside went through in that accident and shows that they can triumph over it, triumph over tragedy, as they say. In the breakdown call out, for example, is a perfect statement, should I say, to what this band has overcome. They are triumphant over this horrendous tragedy, what happened all those years ago, and coming back strong. And the music video itself, every time I watch it, it brings a tear to my eye, and the song is so powerful, so heavy as well, but it just really blew us away. I listened to it, I'm not even talking, maybe about 50 times, I'm not even joking, between that single dropping and this album coming out. I've listened to it so much, and quite frankly, it is absolutely incredible, and it moves me, it truly moves me, and I know a lot of people, it has moved them as well, and yeah, brings a tear to a lot of people's eyes. But let's not overlook the fact that this is not an album to feel sorrowful for. This is about overcoming the odds and overcoming every obstacle in their path to do what this band loves to do, and that is perform the riffs that they love to perform on stage and get back in the driving seat of, you know, the Ghost Inside and come back guns a-blazing. And have they done it? Yes, they fucking have. This might be my new favourite Ghost Inside album. Like, Returns and Get What You Give are incredible albums, as I said before, but this is another fucking level of emotion, power, and just overall riffs. Like, man, this album is not a sorrow-filled album. This is about, as I said, overcoming the odds, and you can feel it oozing out of the band, not just from Jonathan Vigil's vocals. Not just his vocals, but every part of this album, from the guitar riffs to the drum work to the bass work, every part of this album, just from the riff writing, song structure, and flow overall, and progression, and every dynamic approach in this album just screams out, you know, quality, precision, and emotion. Like, this is honestly one of the thickest sounding albums I've heard in not just 2020, but in the past couple of years. I'm not even kidding. Like, it sounds so meaty. It's I think that really comes from what's his name again? Will Putney and what's his name? Forgetting. Jeremy McKinnon from A Day to Remember. Both of them assisted in the recording of this album and the production, and them two putting this album together. I mean, if Will Putney wasn't on this album, like, it wouldn't have sounded as absolutely meaty as it is. Like, he is an absolute genius when it comes to recording. He's easily one of my favourite producers, but if he wouldn't have made this album as incredible as it is sounding wise. It's absolutely fantastic. Every chunk of riffs, the melodies, the vocal just dynamics, like the way it's recorded, just everything on it just screams out. It's just full on quality. It is easily the best sounding Ghost Inside album, and not just from a songwriter's perspective, but just the quality of the recording is absolutely incredible, and I have to give that props to Will Putney and Jeremy for doing absolute quality on this release, because the riffs, just especially the breakdowns, they hit so fucking hard, man. Like, there's a lot of deathcore bands that would kill to have this much impact. I mean, even stuff that's gone through Will Putney's studio would kill to have the heaviness like this, for example. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, the drum work as well is something definitely to admire on this album, because the drummer, unfortunately, in the accident, lost his leg, and has had to obviously relearn the drums sort of thing, because he's been given like this, I can't remember what it's called, because I should have prepared that for the review, but it's like a little like device that helps him play drums with his amputated leg. And watching it's in the Aftermath video, that bit just took me somewhere else, man. Like it sent me into an emotional wreck to see what they overcome. Like, there's like a scene of like them before recording and stuff, and it tugs at the heartstrings, man. But to see what he overcome on that, and his work on this album is absolutely fantastic in general. Like, you wouldn't think that he has lost a part of his leg. It is so precise, so well performed, and his drum work is absolutely fantastic. Like, he hits with so much power and intensity. Like, it does really come from raw emotion from the playing perspective. You can definitely feel it when you listen to it, and it just executes so well, if you ask me. The bass work, a really rumbly, gut-wrenching bass tone on this album. Like, it's kind of clanky in some ways. It's like a modern sort of metalcore sort of tone to it, but it definitely really fits well and really locks in the drums and the guitar very well, because those guitar riffs, those guitar tones are thick as fuck, man. They are chunky, thick and beefy sound, but then when the melodies come in and they sing, they actually fucking sing those riffs. They take you off to cloud nine sort of level, you know, like the just the execution. It's so much beauty in those melodies, and that's one thing I've really admired about the Ghost Inside. Like, they can pump out some heavy as fuck riffs, but when those melodies come in, they just take you off to another place, and this album definitely takes you off to a different place that we have not heard from the Ghost Inside. Like, it does have that certain it kind of feels like emotional, like, playing, like the way it like feels like when it's delivered, but it still feels like you know, a bit more positive in some ways. It's like sorrowful but positive in the chord progressions. It kind of feels like that sort of way in the way it executes, but the main factor is the riffs on here, and that's what I love about the Ghost Inside, is the riffs, because they are chunky, they are heavy, they are just wow. These are actually some of the heaviest riffs I have heard so far in 2020, like in the breakdown department, especially on the, I believe this was the second song they release, called Pressure Point. The breakdown on that is necessary, just a beatdown, man. It's literally just a beatdown. And it is an absolute beatdown on your senses, man. It is one of the hardest hitting things. It makes you want to fight invisible ninjas and punch and just flail your arms around, and it's just like, it just overcomes you with that urge to just pit, man. And especially in lockdown, it's just like, it's sad that you can't actually do it. And you know, like, they've rescheduled their UK show to next year, which I did have tickets for, but I have to get some new ones because, you know, life. But that's another story. But anyway, yeah, I need to go and see them next year just to hear those mighty riffs. And if they are playing a majority of this album, which I'm predicting that they will, I'm on board, man. Like, it's like 40 minutes. If they were just to play this entire album in full, I'd be just like in awe just listening to it, man. It's just incredible. But yeah, and Jonathan's vocals, man. Like, I was expecting like this to be a very powerful vocal delivery, like more so than any other of the Ghost Inside. Like, he obviously believes in what he sings and is like engulfed in the lyrics and stuff like that. But these lyrics and what he's overcome, you can feel there is a lot more coming from his vocal performance. Like, even if it's just that little segment in Aftermath where it goes silent and he just does that long, like mid-scream, you know. Yeah, even if it was just like, you could tell instantly that this guy's been through a lot, like, and the band's been through a lot in general. But honestly, his vocal performance across this album and lyrics are just something else, man. This is the Ghost Inside unhinged, basically. That's the best way I can describe it. I mean, but there is some elements on here that definitely kind of feel a bit like more melodic and a bit more kind of like, I can feel that Jeremy's kind of had a bit of influence on here, and it definitely helps them on this album, on like the song One Choice and Begin Again, which kind of have a bit of a Day to Remember kind of pop punk kind of influence. I'm going to say a melodic metalcore pop punk sort of influence there, a Day to Remember influence, you could say, with the singing parts on that. Now, they've had singing parts and clean singing on their previous albums a little bit, but this one, it just adds a bit more of a dynamic to their overall sound and just gets a different kind of emotion out, and makes it seem like we are still here to not just overcome what we've done, but we are here to, you know, bring something else to the game. Like, we are the Ghost Inside and we are here to bring it. And those songs definitely stick out for me. I think this entire album definitely sticks out for me, from the intro track 1333. Is only an intro track, but then Still Alive all the way to Aftermath is just absolute incredibleness from beginning to end. And I honestly think this is a highlight album. Definitely think this is a highlight album of 2020, and I'm so happy that the Ghost Inside are back and they have overcome so many odds to get to here. And quite frankly, this album has been worth the wait, and it is it's helping me a lot overcome a lot of struggles that I go with day to day, and make us, you know, see positivity in life a lot more. And this album definitely helps me a lot with that, and you need to hear it if you haven't already. I'd be very surprised if you haven't heard it, because they've been, like, you know, all over news and metal feeds and stuff like that over the past 5 years. And now that they've got an album, if you haven't heard it now, what the fuck are you doing? Get on this shit. The Ghost Inside are back with their new album, The Ghost Inside. 11 tracks, 40 minutes of just pure powerhouse and just full of emotion. Man, this album kills so much. I would say recommended tracks would definitely be Pressure Point and Aftermath, but I would also say Phoenix Rise and Still Alive. Still Alive is definitely one of the more, it sounds kind of like straight up Ghost Inside, like Returners, Give What You Give, Dear Youth, and the debut album, which escapes me the name of. But yeah, all these tracks are absolutely killer. But for an overall score though, I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Absolutely incredible album. The Ghost Inside are back. They have returned, guns are blazing and ready to kick the metal scene up once again. So make sure you check out this album. And I'll see you until the next video. And remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.